The spokesperson for the campaign to free political prisoners in Iran. Can I hold this in my hand? As you know, women in Iran are rebellious. So basically, I have to stand here. I've rearranged all the scene. That's what we're doing, you know. So first of all, Farad, thank you so much for the lovely performance. And I think what a brilliant way to remember all those musicians and artists who are in prison right now, who are released temporarily on bail. Some of them, you know, too much Salehi, and you know, obviously, Saman Yasin, who's sentenced to death, unfortunately. You know, Shervin for the song برای that we all love. And also one guy, Shaho Hosseini. Shaho was arrested for singing Bella Ciao in Kurdish, and he was actually arrested and just released last week on bail. So there are many of them, and there are thousands of political prisoners, as you know. Some of them we know, some of them we don't. And I would like to mention some of them. That one of them that I'm sure no one knows is Mahan. Mahan is 20 years old, and he's a rapper. And he was arrested and tortured just because he basically sang about Mahsa Amini, and now temporarily on bail. Other prisoners who are not necessarily artists, like someone like Shahla Abdi, who is 21 years old and given death sentence for burning, on the charge of burning Khomeini's photo. Someone else, Mushtaba Qanaati Kholari, he was arrested, tortured, and then his body was dumped, and it was found in December 2022. The security forces, IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard, told the family that they are not allowed to talk about Mushtaba. And I'm positive many people didn't hear about them, and they asked our campaign to actually publicize it. Another one is Puya Ismandi. He was 26 years old, got arrested in the very beginning of the revolution. He was tortured, and then he was released. One day after his release, he reportedly killed himself. Another one is Zania. Zania is only 16 years old. He's a student. He's in prison. He's been tortured and forced into false confession. So I'm here to draw your attention to all political prisoners in general, but particularly to those whose names are not on the media necessarily, which is quite dangerous, with tens and thousands of them. And so there are many imprisoned, and many of the families actually been threatened that they're going to be arrested and they're not allowed to talk about their loved one. In all my activities, I've never seen that much atrocities, especially the torture in prison in the last 44 years. There are tens of thousands. According to our organization, from the beginning of the revolution, they have arrested at least 60,000. You heard it correctly, 60,000 political prisoners. Many of them been released on bail, and many of them, their family, they don't even know where they are. So, you might think about it, due to all this crackdown, that they silenced the revolution and they stopped. I must say no, they haven't. Because when you look at people in Iran, you have seen some of these clips here, some of the images. They're still fighting in different forms and shapes. For example, in chanting in the funeral of those who lost their life. They're writing slogans on the walls, on the street, universities, and also in schools. So the fight is going on. They haven't been able to silence it. Just recently, I saw a picture of a very young woman on the social media who lost one eye because he was shot by a pellet gun, with a pellet gun by the security forces. So she said, someone asked me, was it worth it to lose an eye going to the demonstration? And she said that definitely it was worth it. And she showed the hand gesture of victory. This is what we're talking about. This is the generation that they can't break it. So I know they can't stop the revolution. I know it not because just I'm a spokesperson for the campaign to free political prisoners, not just because we get lots of report, because I've seen it, like many of you. They can't break it because this is a regime that have been suppressing, torturing, executing for 44 years, almost half a century. They have been trying, but they haven't been able. I know it because in the 80s, as some of you might know, they have committed the most horrifying massacre, I would say, in the history. They have executed more than 5,000 political prisoners in less than a month, remember, in the summer of 1987. And they have arrested tens of thousands of people. I was one of those at the age of 12 and also at the age of 16. Many of my friends, 14 years old, they got executed, raped before the execution. So I know they cannot silence this revolution because my generation did not give up. They couldn't break us. As same as this generation now, those young people that you've seen, same as this generation, we don't give up. I refused, like many people, I refused to be a victim. I became a fighter. And decades on, I'm still fighting. Same as these young people now. So that's what I'm saying. When you look at all those atrocities, please see the resistance. The news from Iran is horrifying, is heartbreaking. But at the same time, the resistance is inspiring, is historic. So that's what we need to remember. So, what I'm trying to say, I mean, when you look at the women in Iran, like, we women in Iran made of fire, trust me, and you know it. That's why we don't give up. As someone say, women made of fire cannot be burned for 44 years. So when I'm thinking about them, so I want you to remember that resistance. I want you to be the voice of them. I want you to echo their voice. Usually in these events, I try to be very, very brief. I was asked to be brief. So usually in these events, people are asked to join in for a moment of silence to remember all those who lost their life. But I'm thinking to myself, our voice being louder, clear. The slogan, Women, Life, Freedom, Zan Zindagi Azadi, Jen Jian Azadi, it's been all over the world, so we're not silent. So that's why, at the end, I would like to ask you to join me for a few seconds of clapping for the bravery of all those people who lost their life, for all those people who are right now, as I'm speaking with you, they are under torture, for all those who are fighting. So for all of them, for Zan Zindagi Azadi, for Jen Jian Azadi, join me to clap for their bravery. Thank you.